Hello, welcome to this video on Dhammapada, chapter 6, Pandita Vaggo, verse 1. As before, I will read it without the text up on the screen, and then I'll call up the text. Nidhinam va pavattaram yam passe vajjatasinam Diggaihavaadim medhavim tadisam panditam bhajye tadisam bhajyamanassa seyohuti napapiyo. Call it up. There we are. Nidhinam va pavattaram yam passe vajjatasinam Diggaihavaadim medhavin tadisam panditam bhajye tadisam bhajyamanassa seyohuti napapiyo. The first two lines, some of you might find a little tricky to sort out the syntax of that sentence. The main verb is passe, which is the optative form from passati. So passe, if one sees. Yam passe, whoever one sees, or whatever person one sees. Yam being the accusative of yo, meaning who, the relative form. And vajjadasinam, a fault shower, one who points out your faults. So start off with the second half of the first line first. Let me call it up for you. I can find my errant cursor. Here we are. So highlighting that one there, sorry, I meant to highlight the whole lot. Yam passe vajjadasanam. Whatever fault shower one sees, here in the sense of one encounters. In English we say, if you encounter a person who shows you your faults, then bhajye, you should follow tadisam panditam, you should follow a wise man like that. So you can understand this sentence better by looking at the second half of the first line, then the second half of the second line, which together would make a complete sentence. So yam passe vajjatasinam, whatever vajjatasinam, shower of faults, passe, one encounters, literally one might see, one might encounter. Tadisam panditam bhajye, tadisam, like that, such like, panditam, wise man, all in the accusative, bhajye, one should follow. Now let's expand the sentence a bit. Yam passe vajjatasinam, whatever shower of faults one might see, nigaihavaadim medhavim, one who restrains you, or rebukes, rebukingly speaking, nigaihavadin, medhavin, intelligent, tadisam panditam bhajye, such a wise man one should follow, nidhinam va pavattaram, like a proclaimer or shower of treasures, or like somebody who shows you where the treasure is. These words, nigaihavaadim medhavim, they are in apposition to the Vajradasinam. So when words are in apposition to another word, it means that they stand in the sentence in the same syntactical relationship to the verb, in the same syntactical relationship to the sentence as a whole. And they're often added on by way of further description. So here the object of the verb passé is Vajradasinam, and the two words Nigaihavaadim Medhavim are just added on, also in the accusative, because they stand in the same syntactical relationship to the verb passé, but by way of further description of who that person is. The word Vajradasinam, there is the, let me call up my iPad. There we are. It's the root vrij, and it makes, in Sanskrit, it makes the causative varjayati, and in Pali vajeti. In the causative form in which it's most commonly found, it means to avoid something, and it makes, in Sanskrit, its future passive participle, what we also call the gerundive, that which is to be avoided, in varjya, which in Pali becomes vajja. So vajja is something that is to be avoided, and it's therefore a fault in your conduct or thinking or view, any kind of fault. So a Vajradasin, darshin from the root drish, and dasin means a seer. So a fault seer means one who sees your faults, and by extension one who sees them and points them out to you. So yampase vajradasinam, whatever fault seer, and then this here means fault shower, one may see. Tadisam panditam bhaje. Tadisam means like that, of that type. I've done a note analysing this tadisam in the note section under the main text. Again, it's from that same root, drish. Drisha in Sanskrit and disa in Pali. This form of the verbal noun, drisha, disa, is used only in a compound. So taking the compounded form of he, she, it is tad, drisha, which doesn't actually exist. It becomes tad drisha in Sanskrit. It's by a slightly irregular lengthening of tad to ta. So tadrisha, tadrisha, and in Pali, tadisa, meaning like that. The combining form, by the way, of aham, I, is mad or mat. And when you combine mad or mat with disa, same in Sanskrit and Pali, you don't have madrisha, maddisa. Like the tad, it lengthens to a ta. So madisa. So madisa means like me. And you'll sometimes find that in the Pali literature, often find it in the Pali literature, with a conversation between equals who might be strangers. You refer to somebody as madisa, meaning you're accepting that you are like me in the vocative. Madisa, oh, you who are like me. It's kind of friendly greeting to indicate that there's no hostility or sense of strangeness between you. So tadisa in the third person means like that, such like. Tadisam panditam bhaje. One should follow a panditam like that. Nigehavadim. You'll see in the vocabulary nirgrihnati, which in Pali becomes nigganhati, which literally means to ganhati, to hold, or to grab, to take, nigganhati, to hold back, and or to restrain, and by extension to rebuke somebody. That is, to restrain that person by the words that you're speaking. The absolutive form, having done, nigeha, in Sanskrit it is nirgrihya, and in Pali nigeha. In the compound nigeha vadi, vadi meaning saying or speaking, adjectival form vadin, vadi, it has an adverbial force, not having restrained speaking, but speaking in a restraining way, speaking in a rebuking way, nigeha vadim. This is the very common noun and adjective ending in, and normally the accusative ends in inam, yogi, stem form yogin, accusative yoginam, same for Sanskrit and Pali. Sometimes this in ending in Pali but not Sanskrit flips over to being an ordinary e ending, like the word muni, meaning sage. And that's why we have here nigehavadim. You'd expect to see nigehavadinam, but it can flip to an ordinary short e declension. And exactly the same applies to the medhavin. Normally it's wise, brainy. You see, medhavin, you'd expect to see the accusative medhavinam, but here we see medhavim. As I say, normally medhavinam can have medhavim. More in poetry, where there are exigencies of meter to be considered, you tend not to find it so much in prose. Nidhinam va pavattaram, also in the accusative, because follow that person, follow such a wise man. Tadisam panditam bhaje, nidhinam va pavattaram. The va is what in Sanskrit is iva, meaning like. Nidhinam va pavattaram, like a shower of treasures. Pavatta, a shower. It's the noun ending in a tri, the stem form tri, sometimes called ending in ar. You'll see the declension of those, and we'll be coming to that when we get there, in Lily de Silva lesson 28. And I've given the reference as to where you can find this declension in the notes at the bottom of the analysed text. Many of you will be familiar with the word sattha, sattha deva manusanam. That's from the root shas, Sanskrit, and a teacher is that shasta, nominative, shastaram, accusative, in Pali, Sanskrit and Pali, sata, and the accusative sataram. This is same pavata, nominative, pavataram, accusative. It's from the root vach, meaning to speak or to say. In Sanskrit, pravach plus ta is pravakta. And as you'd expect, in Pali it becomes pavata. The pravach, to pro-voice, to proclaim, to announce, here is one who shows. Nidhi is treasure. Nidhinam, genitive plural, of treasures. So nidhinam va pavataram, like a proclaimer or shower of treasures, like somebody who shows you where the treasure is hidden. So what this verse is saying is, if you encounter a wise, sensible person who points out your faults to you, rather than getting cross with him, you should follow him. You should welcome his company as you would somebody who shows you where there is a hidden treasure. And the last line, Tadisam bhajamanasa sayuhuti napapyo. That forms a complete sentence on its own. Bhajamanasa, we've had bhaje in the previous line, from the root bhaj. Which means to follow a person, as in not just go along behind him, but follow in the sense of adhere to what a person says, as one might follow a certain teacher or a teaching, or follow a certain practice, that's it, engage in a certain practice. That's the meaning of bhaj. Bhajamanasa, the mana is the atmanepada form of the present participle. In Pali, you could equally, so bhajan, present participle, following, which you could get in the genitive form, bhajato, short form, or bhajantasa, looking at the genitive here of the present participle, long form. Both of those forms would have been equally correct in Pali. In Sanskrit, differentiates between the parasmaipada, present participle, and the atmanepada, present participle. The parasmaipada, present participle, in Sanskrit and in Pali, that would be bhajato, or bhajata in Sanskrit. The mana ending is the atmanepada, present participle. In Pali, they're used pretty much indiscriminately. In Sanskrit, they are used according to the rules. The antam form for the parasmaipada and the mana form for the atmanepada. Bhajamanasa, of one who follows. So bhajamanasa tadisam, and it's treated like a verb for the purpose of the object in the accusative. Just as we have tadisam bhaje, let one follow such a person, then tadisam bhajamano, one who follows such a person. And here tadisam bhajamanasa, for one who follows such a person. Seyo hoti napapyo. Hoti is, or it becomes. Seyo, better. na papio. This io ending is one form of the comparative. I've given the references for it and a note on it in the notes box at the bottom of this verse. In Sanskrit, it's Shreyas and Papyas. Shreyas and in Pali, Seyo Papyo. The much more common comparative ending that you put onto the end of an adjective is in both Sanskrit and Pali, tara, which exactly corresponds with our English er to make a comparative big, bigger, small, smaller. That tara has the same effect. And the superlative, of course, dhamma, which is cognate with our, well, not cognate with, but has the same grammatical function as our ending est, smallest, biggest. There are a number of adjectives that form their comparatives and superlatives differently, and Shri, Shreyas, and Papa, Papias is one of our two of those. And so the last line means, for one who follows, Pajamanasa Tadisam, such a person, Huti Seyo, it becomes better, Na Papio, not worse. And remember this word Papa, often translated as sin, but just generally anything bad or wrong or evil, is both an adjective and a noun, a neuter noun. Here it's treated as an adjective, so just worse, papio, worse. I will read through the text now once more. Let me just call it up. Here we are. Nidhinam va pavattaram yam passe vajjatasinam nigaihavaadim medhavin tadisam panditam bhaje. Tadisam bhajamanassa seyohoti napapio. And that concludes this verse.